Uncut Daisies and Unicorns, and here we are. This is a Trailer Friday.
Friday's trailer. Boom.
And we're on Season 9, Episode 9. 9-9.
99 bottles of beer on the wall. 99 bottles of beer. Okay. That's enough.
That's enough. You can continue with the rest of that out there if you'd like to continue the song.
And if you don't want to continue, then you're with me.
Right.
You're on my team.
Then you're like, but if I take one of those bottles down, then I'm only going to have 98.
It's still a lot of beer.
It's still a lot of beer.
Yeah.
That's good, though.
Well, welcome to Trailer Friday.
Right, Trailer Friday. Everybody's welcomed in.
Yep. We had more people on the YouTube watch Trailer Friday than they watched
the full episode.
The episode on YouTube. Doesn't mean that they didn't, like, on their way were like, oh, I'm listening. And today's only Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but we've got a continuation. I think we rounded the corner. I think we brought some closure. So we moved from vagueness and outrage and deity, higher power talk into that when we have all this information and, like, which way do I turn? How do I become an informed? And then we just boil this thing down. Now we do call out some different people practicing in different directions, and I'm pretty sure that this next episode will disappoint.
Well, I mean, to me, I think it's, like sometimes we try to steer from calling individuals out, but I think we did mention a few names because we've both recognized that there's been harm that's been brought through that.
Yeah. And
so that's why we bring up names even, not to be able to have you like, oh, like, if I like them, does that mean no, we're not condemning anybody. It's not our job.
Right.
It's not what we're doing here on Cut Daisies, is not to do that, but it's being able to say there's harm that's been there. And so just be careful.
Well, we're not looking for a libel suit from Joel Osteen, is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. No, we're just like, this is our observation.
Right.
This is not meant, and the other thing is that where I was going with it's going to be disappointing is because there's somebody out there who's just waiting for us to break out and start preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's not what we do.
Right.
And so, but we do take people back to a place to consider, if you have questions that are surrounding the part of confusion, that there's so many options, how do you live out your practice? How do you practice? How do you live out the practice of your spiritual journey? We walk through that, we talk through that, and we land on an equation, which, even though neither one of us are really good at numbers, seems to, well, it's a word equation.
It's a word equation, yes. Yeah. Yes. A plus B.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that when you're
diagonal slash
right.
C.
Uh-huh. I think when we are traveling down this path, we're also recognizing and trying to be able to point out what we would use, and we use the word practice. And I think practice is a big part of that journey. And so practice comes out in our very beginning parts of our conversation with pottery even, that leads into, so how do we take a look at our current practices and say, what is it leading us to? Is it to a goal that we might have? Is it a general direction that we might be going? And if our practice isn't leading there, we should be looking at our intentions and saying, all right, let's go back to and figure out, what is it that I'm actually trying to seek? What is it that I'm trying to be able to find? And if I'm trying to seek something and yet none of my practices match that, then hey, guess what?
Right.
let's change some practices.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I think there's a lot of that talk and communication. Yep, we do talk about some pitfalls, like, when you're doing this, like, you want to, there's some things to avoid, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So.
Yep. And so if you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know if I really want to listen on Sunday, well, then the answer is, I would say, we probably go about 29 minutes before we really do a dive in. So the first half or the first third of the episode, I think you'll be able to chuckle along with us in our conversation.
Right.
But then after that, then you're going to be like listening in and we're just going to talk about the way different denominations practice. Mm-hmm. We didn't really go step by step through the whole thing, but we did. Yeah, there's a few axioms in there, and hopefully what it can do is that if you've got questions on, hey, how did you guys land where you land? We do a little historicness of, kind of going through the gamut, and based on the amount of life. I would also say that to the next generation of people who are pursuing a spiritual journey, that you shouldn't be afraid of what the years might bring.
Right.
And so I think, one of the statements is that every day we're a different person. Like, we're being informed with new information, and there's transformation that's occurring, and we become, the next day we're not the same as we were the day before.
Right.
And people need to give themselves space for growth in process. But I would just encourage people to, get out there, have conversation. And, I come back to, I don't think we really even landed there in the conversation. We didn't remind people where we landed on the episode before. But part of our practice in this whole last two episodes is recognizing that there is a power that is greater than us, that is at work to be able to, I'm trying to use non-Christianese words, illuminates the word that comes to my mind, but basically be able to make bright or make the way known for truth in spiritual practice. You can do all the right things, and come to the end and be empty and barren in your spiritual journey. What we have faith in and believe in is that God is at work in a way to be able to reveal itself to you.
Right.
And now people are like, itself? Why itself? Well, because God's both genders. Mm-hmm. God's not just a dude. He's not
an old man with a white beard.
With a lightning bolt ready to strike you down because you did a misstep. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I would learn to, and we talked about it last episode as well, but learn to embrace the journey part of it. Because you mentioned like change, and that means even if we brought it up in this episode, was every day can be something that's new. Why? Because even if we're doing the same thing, we're doing it from a different perspective. We have changed from yesterday.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at that, then we're going to embrace the journey that we're going to be on, because tomorrow you might be the same, but it also could be we see things differently.
And where I was going with even that thought about change is, what I found out about myself is I can recognize change occurring. I'm cool with change that I'm in control of. What the change that I don't like is the change that's imposed upon me by an external force.
Sure.
But if I can be lulled into the placebo of the change that is occurring is change of my own divination, then I'm just making words up right now, stringing them along. But you know what I'm saying? I'm like, if the change that's occurring is my idea, then I'm okay with it. But if the change that is occurring is imposed on me,
well, I mean, and I think that's also the part we have to be able to embrace, right?
well,
I mean, is that there's going to be things along this journey as a spiritual being putting into like, all right, this is a journey. I know I'm changing. And guess what? Things are going to come at me that are also changing, like and it's going to be outside external forces at play as well. And so I need to be able to differentiate, understand, and navigate.
Yeah.
All of these things that are both change in me and change external.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
The forces that oppose us are coming to change us in ways that we do not want.
And may the force be with you.
No. But really, and then I think another great conversation starter for people who are in relationship, people who are in partnership, people who have significant others in their lives that they actually like to talk to is, a great starter question would be, hey, recently I've been taking a look at how in a daily way, I know that I'm going through change because of how I'm informed, because of different things that I take in and what changes do you see in yourself that have been going on? How have you changed in the last 30 days? How about the last 6 months? How about the last year? Now you want to get bold. You want to have like conversation that could sting a little bit. What changes do you see in me over those time periods? And then have someone be able to give you feedback in regards to what they see. Because what they're going to speak into is they may speak into something that you already do see. But they may speak into your blind spots.
Right.
And that, that can you curl back your toes a little bit.
Right. And when you're asking the question, you have to be prepared for blind spots then, right?
I think that's where you're given permission.
Right.
Hey,
and you're
listen,
like, this is in relationship. And that's why if you're giving freedom, right, to say it and to speak it, then don't be afraid. Like, all right, they may say something about my blind spots that I don't really like to look at.
Right.
Or I can't see because it's a blind spot.
Yeah.
So be open to it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's where I think relationship leads to, right? Is like, so somebody's going to help me along this journey.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about deity, right? We talk about God.
Yeah.
But we can also talk about each other. Like
Right.
if somebody's not along with you in the journey and you're trying to be able to just navigate, like that's going to be harder.
Yeah.
Have people around too. They're going to challenge you to do the same, so relationship.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
Pitch Perfect. There's one point where the guy, he's like, yeah, and I'm full of all kinds of fun facts. And she says, you really should let somebody else tell you that. How often do we get in our words that what we're doing is we're wanting to impose on the space that we're actually taking up? We want to impose the narrative of what we want other people to believe about us.
Yeah.
Versus what does it mean for you to sit and quietly take in the information of what other people have about you. I mean, and then there's parts where, man, I'm just an ostrich. I mean, stick my head in the sand and not look around, not hear anything. I'll be the three monkeys, and See no,
See no
evil,
evil,
hear no evil, speak no evil. Yeah, yeah. But this again, this is for you can talk about how the weather has changed. That's the, I mean, bare bones, skin deep right there. Oh man, yeah, it was rainy last week. Oh yeah, now it's cool, 73 degrees, 2 days in a row in Chicagoland. Oh yeah, it's gonna get hot, hot, hot. Oh yeah. Oh, so now we just talked about the weather, and then you can move into how can you believe what this world's coming to, and I'm not really sure why that's my animated, sarcastic voice of some old dude sitting on a rocking chair. But
that happens too.
yeah, and so okay, well, what is the world coming to? What about the next thing? Hey, a declaration of not this is what I've accomplished, not this is where I'm at, what the rung on the ladder of the corporateness of what this is not what my family's accomplished. This is not not about the things that would elevate. That's ego speaking, to be able to, just create this trophy shelf of what is positively occurring. But to be able to move in and move into the deeper of, hey, I've been thinking the last few days about what changes have occurred to me. There's things that have passed by, and maybe there's progress that's being made. Maybe there's regressions that have occurred. Take account of that. That's a good thing to journal on. We didn't even mention that as a spiritual discipline.
That's true. But I think you mentioned even the, like having be the one sit back. What's what's wrong with this world, or what direct, but to be able to bring out the question, if you're in that vein of always pointing out what's wrong with the world, also ask the question, what's right with the world? Because I think that it counts towards another side, right? That you're saying that there's actually also blessings to be counted, gratitude to be a part of, that there are things right with the world.
Yeah.
And let's also point some of that out too, to be able to balance things out and say, yeah, there's some things that I don't find ideal. There's direction, there's, the public arena, that becomes increasingly difficult to be a part of. But what's right?
So in my head, this is the way domestic Steve works, okay?
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, wow, that's a really good point, Phil. And so I was like, yeah, what's wrong with the world? Toilets need to be cleaned. And then in my head, I was like, well, shit happens. So now I'm laughing at my own joke, right? And you're making a really valid point. But you know what? I seriously, thank God that we have inside toilets.
Right.
We don't got to be digging a hole.
That is a thing that's right with the world right now.
I mean, it seems very... these little things that we take for granted, right? And granted, is it life-changing? I don't know. Like, there's part of me that thinks it is.
I would find indoor plumbing and electricity to be things that have fundamentally changed us for things that are positive.
So then, like, I was like, hey, when's the last time I said to Amy, gosh, I see you. Like, I see what you're doing. I see, what you're accomplishing, and like an acknowledgement. Now, whether or not she's a person who is a person of word and affirmation, like that can land on her differently. But, or even just acknowledge. I think when's the last time, instead of griping about the shit going on, that we took time to be able, like, as we're listening to people speak, can we arm ourselves with the good that we see taking place? Instead of jumping on a bandwagon that is
Misery loves company. So
yeah, like that. But like and this is where I would say that if we were to put that into a practice, that as we're having conversations with people, I was walking into one of my favorite stores the other day, and there's a gentleman. He's probably in his mid-20s. Milo is his name. And I kind of gravitated toward Milo because one of my favorite guitarists from Des Moines has a son named Milo. And I'm like, man, Milo, that is not a name you hear often, but when you do, I said, I think I found that Milos are very interesting people.
Yeah.
So I walk in the other day, and I'm like, Milo. And he looked at me, and he's like, Steve. Now, I have moved on that in this store. Now, I got 3 people calling me by my name. But you know why? It's because I learned their name first. There's that motion of what happens by my practice of calling them by name. They were like, I don't want to not call him by his name. He knows my name, Now, granted, they have thousands of people shopping at the store, right. But still,
and they also have name tags usually. But
yeah, it's true. That's the cheat sheet right there.
Right.
But what happens if when we're sitting and we're talking to people we do know, and what's wrong with us if we can't come up with something good that we see in them and declare that? To me, it moves into this whole attitude of gratitude. Hey, I'm thankful. Hey, thank you so much for. And you know what? I think that kind of showed up last week when we were setting up the basement downstairs Tabor. The year before we were starting from scratch. It took us 4 full days.
Yeah, we were still trying to figure out how it's all going to work.
Yeah, but then we added 2 more teammates to the thing and pointing people in different directions, doing different things all at the same time. That made it go. In one day, everything was set up. But, it was really cool to be able to say thank you. And so another place where it shows up in my life is when I go to a restaurant, which is not frequent. But when I do go to a restaurant, if I don't catch the server's name, usually when they come to the table, they're like, hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'll be your server today. If I miss it the first time, I ask them the second, hey, what's your name? And then every time they come to the table, if you greet them with like if you need something, hey, I need more water. You can, be able to, Douglas, thank you so much. Could I get another glass of water? And just calling people by name. It's an acknowledgement of their existence.
Sure.
So when you see people who are, even if what is life if we go through life and the people we're exchanging with, we can't even find one good thing to be able to, and somebody could say, you're just, blowing smoke in their face up there, whatever.
Yeah. Or you're trying to find the optimistic side, the good things.
Yeah,
right?
Hey,
pull it out.
There's good stuff. And it changes our mindset. So anyway, off that tangent.
Yeah, so it's part of the journey, being able to figure out. And you have acquaintances that their names now. You have people that are, because of the practice that you've put in place. Calling people by name. You see the same person again and again and again. Well, you want to know their name. And what's wrong with it?
It moved into a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, Milo, I haven't seen you for a few weeks. Oh, yeah, I went on vacation over the 4th. It kind of, I'm back in rotation. I'm like, oh, cool, man. That's awesome.
It's perfect.
Did you get to do anything fun? Follow-up question. You know what? Hung out at the beach. And I'm like, isn't that the great thing about North Shore? You get beach time. It's not like you have your own staycation, but you're here on the lake. He's like, oh, man, it was great. I said, that's really cool, dude. So then I come back around and check out, and guess what Milo says to me? He's like, how's your summer going, Steve? I'm like, man, just had a bunch of house guests through. I said, we had a great time.
Yeah.
I said, and now we're getting back into the routine and stuff. I said, but I'm not gonna. What did I say to him? I'm like, but I'm with you, man. We're here. We need to get some beach time in and stuff. So I mean, it was more than we're talking about our surroundings and things like that. But I mean, it's just moving into other conversations.
Yeah. And I think that brings out because you were bringing out things in conversation. So he spoke about it in the beginning, you saw him, and then you brought it up at the end almost as a nod to say, hey, I recognized what you said.
Right.
Because I'm bringing it back forward in relationship and conversation. They feel seen, they feel heard.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what you're trying to do in a relationship.
Yeah.
I see you, I hear you.
Yeah. Now, I don't think if this guy's on a suicide watch list, he's going to give me a call.
Right.
We're not that in relationship.
Right.
But you know what? It's nice to have conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially at jobs, sometimes they can be mundane, right? Same thing over and over again. But hey, guess what? You brightened that section. Like somebody called me by name, somebody, listened to me.
Yeah, so Duncan, one of my other favorites in my little circle of places where I go,
Right.
Duncan, I think he's on the spectrum in a way where he really likes to watch the weather. And he always talks to me very intently.
Yeah.
And stuff. And recognizing that, I just make sure that before I walk in, I'm like, if I run into Duncan, I want to have the 3-day forecast in my head, and stuff like that.
Right.
And, but yeah, Duncan.
And is he the one that calls you boss?
No, that guy, I haven't seen him for like some months. I think he probably picked up a different job closer to home. But Diana is there, and she was working the beeper. That's a scanner for your groceries. And, I have made it a purpose to be able to smile and say hi. And as I came, Diana's like, well, how are you today, sir? And I said, Diana, I'm doing great. And she goes, I've not seen you for a few days. I'm like, which is, one of those things where when I go to the grocery, like I'll swing by for 2 items, right? And they see me. One day they saw me 3 times in a day, and I kept coming back, and by that time, even the guy who was bagging my groceries,
welcome back.
He's like, welcome back again, But I think that there's that part in the service industry, and people who are there to make sure that your life is continuing on. In that way, why can't we acknowledge them? And these are good things. Let's be good. But I did exactly what I was saying that instead of doing, we should do others. What's it take to get to the deeper questions deeper? But that happens in a relationship,
right,
that is trusted.
So there was an example for you of a practice.
Yeah.
And then we talk about that on Sunday, about building those practices, becoming part of the journey of your self-discovery, spiritual discovery, whatever it might be.
Yeah, and if you're looking for somebody to be able to have that influence in your life, I am not doing that.
No spiritual director for you.
I'm not a spiritual director. I'm not a life coach. I'm not any of that. And so...
I think you can be, though.
Well,
you have been for me.
I just mean in a, you pay me money and I'll do this for you.
Right. Yeah, you're not looking for a job that way, like that one.
Well, maybe I'm looking for a job, but I don't know. But not there.
All right, everybody. Hopefully you've learned along the way, and look forward to seeing you at the full episode on Sunday, or at least you hearing us. And hopefully it's a good weekend for you.
Well, I would just say the only way you can fill your pie hole is with pie. So get you some cherry pie or blueberry pie and fill your pie hole.
Fill your pie hole, everybody. That's the parting words for today. Fill your pie hole.